Hi, I'm John Solari, your host of The Method Actor Speaks, and I'm here with Calista Carradine. And we're going to talk about a little bit, maybe for about 15 minutes, and to see what you've been up to and what's going on. I know you're in the process now of doing a film, and so let's talk. You were talking to me earlier about it, and I found it very interesting the way you were explaining it about this film. So let's see if we can talk a little bit about that.
Well, the problem is if I talk to them about the film, then I'll give it away.
Well, what was it? How did it come about?
I suppose a certain amount of it gets given away by the title, because I just did Hitchhiker Massacre with Johnny Barrymore, who I grew up with. So it's a fifth film that we've done together, and only in one do we look at each other in the eye. And that was the first film we did.
Why do you think that was? It took you that long to... Why was that?
What, that we haven't been able to look at each other in the eye in the last 4 films?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the script writing.
So it had nothing to do with a personality or anything like that you were afraid to look? Or?
No, it would be really great to get that on screen. It's a director's dream, honestly, to get people that already have real interaction going, people that know each other, people that are family or lovers, because there's an extra layer there that's real that they have to work with. And
just so the audience knows, we're talking about John Barrymore, the grandson of the Barrymore family, and the Carradine family.
The Barrymores are famous for their profile.
The profile.
And the Carradines are famous for their smile.
Their smile. And tell me, what was that like? You said you've been friends since you were 11 years old.
Right. Well, we met in the 70s. My father was friends with his father, John Barrymore II. And the 70s was a pretty crazy time. And I don't know how I would describe his father. He's somewhat indescribable, and so was my father actually at the time. And we were. It was the 70s, and we were young and innocent, and in the middle of this crazy time when I met John. At the time, he was playing guitar, and he kept moving on to different instruments. He'd get an instrument down really well because he's a genius kid, right? And then he'd move on to another one. Oh, he'd just conquer something that was seemingly unconquerable, and then just move on.
And you did you sing with him then, and he'd play?
Well, back then, I always wanted to be a singer since I was a little girl. But back then, I wasn't very good at it until someone handed me a guitar so I could feel the notes, and I had trouble when I was younger actually being on key. So Johnny would play on the piano, and he'd go like this. We're doing some old classic song, and because back then I wasn't hitting all the notes right.
So working with him on the film now, we're talking about quite a few years later. Mm-hmm. The friendship that's there, the trust that must be there for both of you.
Yeah. When I tell Johnny to show up somewhere, he knows that he does, because he knows that there's not a bone in my body that doesn't care about him, and whatever,
it's
steer him wrong.
Almost like a brother-sister relationship.
Yeah, I guess so.
Or husband, really, two really close friends,
mm-hmm.
which is rare. To have that kind of friendship.
Yeah.
You hear about it, but not many people really see that. You're really truly friends, and that's nice. Because it's rare.
He's my acting teacher now.
Is he?
But sometimes I'll argue with him.
And you're his karate, you're his kung fu teacher.
No, but I asked him to come to class. He's learned some of this stuff.
Really?
He learned it with my dad. He took a lot of the trips that my dad took and followed him along, But my grandfather went to his grandfather for acting lessons.
Really?
Yes.
No, that's it.
He showed up. It's a nice story. My grandfather had this cape, which was actually an oversized coat, mm-hmm. and he had style, right? And he had is it a cane or an umbrella? And a walking stick,
Walking
we'll
stick,
say.
yes. Usually with a civil handle.
And he walked up to the door and spun it around and pushed the doorbell, spun it back around, put his hand on, nothing happened. So he walks back up, pushes the doorbell, stands there and does this 3 or 4 times, and then turns to the right and sees John Barrymore standing there in his robe with his drink, smoking robe, watching my grandfather do this, and he asked him to be his acting teacher.
Really?
So yeah.
Yeah, your grandfather, John Carradine, was, God, he was good. He was one of the greatest character actors there ever was. It's unbelievable. Now, when you're talking about now John teaching you acting, what is what is his teaching like? So I know he has a class. I see it on Facebook.
Right. Well, I told you I do trust John, and he's very helpful to me. But I do argue with him sometimes over, I'm a very raw, emotional person,
Right.
and he's a very intellectual person, right? Yeah. So we see things differently.
Yeah.
So we take a different approach, which is good because anything I have that's my natural intuition, he's usually coming from a different place. Although we see eye to eye, he's probably coming from a different place.
Are you coming from a place where that's
Well,
instinct? It is getting warm.
Instinct?
Yeah.
Instinct.
Do you act on your instincts
No,
and feelings?
I try to find, like for instance, and for instance, I usually go into sense memory for a lot of the stuff I do. And this particular project, I didn't have a place to. I don't want to tell you what I used instead.
You don't have to.
But
No, you don't.
But
You
for
don't have to tell.
instance, I have number one, I don't want to give up the plot, and number two, I'd actually be telling you a secret about myself if I told you what I used.
No,
but
no,
for
no.
instance, in this particular scene, I was being one way and thinking another.
Right.
And I wanted to be able to express them both. But the thing that I was thinking about is something I've never actually thought about. It's not something that I would enjoy or want to do. So I thought of something else that I would enjoy or want to do to be my motive, so that I did have something that I was trying to get.
An emotional memory, you're talking about that. That feel makes
So,
sense.
Right. I do, however, wish I'd had more takes and more time.
Really?
When you're doing a really big film, you get a lot more time. You get,
That's where the preparation comes in before you.
Yeah.
In training, a lot of people don't realize how important that training is, just for that reason, so that you can go right there.
Right.
When you need it.
Yeah.
Instead of have to wait and take different things and to try to get it going.
Sometimes the first take's the best, and sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it's almost like you walked in the door and
That's
you haven't
true.
sunk in, and I don't have the ability to say I can't work like this.
You can. You can. Why not? I mean, you're a Carradine. As Arthur Penn said, break the rules.
It wasn't in the budget.
Well,
I think it would have been worth the time, but
I think it is. That's an interesting statement. We all, as actors, get intimidated and don't feel we don't have the time. We have to hurry up. When it's not. I mean, I'm there to be an actor and give you what I give, and I think you have to take that.
It's not a computer
function.
printout. You can't just push a button and print it out. You do. There's a certain amount of.
So you really do have to take the time sometimes and do it.
A little bit.
Or
yeah.
that chance you're talking about, and not
Yeah,
work.
or say that's not it. That's not it.
Right.
That's actually not what I brought. I have my biggest problem. I in front of the camera or on the stage. Normally it just turns on and I blow myself and everyone else away. Sometimes I look at it and say, well, it's passable. But auditions, though, in the old days, you'd walk in to an audition and you'd sit down and you'd rap a little bit. You know, they'd look at your resume, they'd ask you about what what they saw on it, and so that they could get a sense of who you are. You know, because they kind of wanted to know, what is this that I have here, before you start pretending, right? And you know, everyone's always kind of pretending a little bit, right? So they get you there long enough to figure out who you really are.
Who you really are.
And then they'd have you do, which is a nice way to shift gears. You know, you walk into the house, it's not a time to jump all over somebody, right? You know, and start asking them to do the carpet, do the carpet or whatever like that, you know, and let them sit down and relax. Yeah, so you get to shift gears, and then now what comes to my second thing about auditions that I just can't stand, is they'll give you a non-actor, right?
Yeah.
And then they'll have them do, like, say we were doing a scene on the couch, right? But they'll put the actor, the non-actor, next to the camera.
Right.
Okay, the shot that it wouldn't have been shot that way.
Right.
Right. Then they'll give you, say you're talking to a 5-year-old girl, and they'll give you a 40-year-old man. And the thing is if you have a 5-year-old girl, it's immediately different. The way you talk to a 5-year-old girl, the way you talk to a good-looking man, the way you talk to an old woman, it's all different, and that's why we have actors. And I like that interplay. I understand that you can be doing a movie with a dragon and then you get to really play like a kid. But the beauty of bouncing off of another actor and having that natural thing between them, so you don't get that. So you walk in right off the street, throw yourself in front of the camera, don't even say hello, act with a non-actor across the room that isn't at all like the part you're playing, and then walk out and no one got to see what I do when I do that. It's frustrating. It's
very frustrating, but then again, it's the business today, and we have to adjust
to that. If I were king, I'd do it all differently.
Right? We all would, but you know, that's one of the, David Lynch, the director, when I did 2 films with him, you never audition for him. He just looks
Where is he?
Yeah, really, he just looks at pictures. Joanna Ray was the casting director. And he takes for granted that you can act. Okay. You know,
he takes for granted that he can get whatever he wants out of you too.
Well, he just lets you. When I worked with him, he let me do. He lets you, the actor, do. He didn't come and direct. The only thing I did one with Harry Dean Stanton, and then I did Lost Highway. And I remember I always saw on TV that the detectives would always have the badge on their belt. And I did that, and he said, no, don't do that. He didn't want that. But outside of that, he allowed you to do. And if it didn't work, he would let you know. And that's why a lot of directors, I mean, the good directors, usually do that. When I worked with Brian De Palma, it was the same way. He just, this is the circumstance, John, do it. And he allowed me, we did 10 takes. On the Black Dahlia.
That's kind of what Hal Ashby would do. He would let you do. I watched it with my father in Bound for Glory, but he would make you do it. I saw a breakup scene, you know, with a family, Woody Guthrie and his wife in Bound for Glory.
Great movie.
They did 30 takes.
But that's a lot.
And you should have seen how torn up that woman was, crying and screaming all day long. At the end of that.
Yeah, you know? I could imagine. I mean, but that's where the craft comes in, and people don't understand that. They see the finished product. They don't see what goes on, you know, before you do that. It's one of the reasons why, you know, as a member of the Actors Studio, when I see the work being done there, and in the preparation when we do scenes, and what the actors will do and try, it's just amazing because the public sees what's finished.
Right. Did you ever take with Stella Adler?
No, I know. It's wonderful. I know.
She was out here. I got to work with her out here in California.
Yeah, well, it's your studio's up on Hollywood Boulevard. The Stella Adler School?
Right. Well, she was This was back in the 80s.
Yeah.
She came out.
Wasn't she there? Because, well, she's part of the Actors Studio in a sense. I mean, the group theater, they broke away with Stella Adler, Meisner, and
Right.
Lee. You know, so
And you went Strasbourg, right?
yeah, with the Actors Studio Strasbourg. But we use all three methods. So, and actually, the method to me, when people ask me, what is the method? The method is whatever your method is.
Well, now, when I was married, my husband was a method actor.
Yeah.
And he liked to live the character,
Yeah.
right? How do you do that? I mean, really, how do you do that with the kind of parts that, you know?
Yeah. A lot of that to me was, you know, I
Some
hear
of those
about
areas of life, do you really want to go there?
Do you really want to go there? Because, you know, you're right. I mean, it didn't make I see
At
that.
this point, we've been a lot of places and we've experienced a lot of things, and there's a lot of real life to draw from. But there's some parts that you just can't live.
You can't live and to call yourself a. Sometimes I see actors overdo it with that, you know, being a so-called method actor, you know, and I see it in rehearsals and this and that, and it's almost like telegraphing to the world, look who I'm a method actor, and this is why I do what I do, and
Well, it certainly gives you some time to let the part sink in.
sink in. But you know, I'm a firm believer. If I were this character, how would I do it?
Right.
Not if you know, the character is me.
We should work together.
Yeah, it's
That would be interesting.
I would love that. I would love that. But I've always believed in that, and so as far as going into the character, I don't. The character comes to me. If I was, it's almost like when you audition, you go in there. They already know who the character is. They want to know who John Solari is.
Nobody knows that.
Right. And so I go in. If I were this character, how would I do it?
Right.
And that's what I give them.
What would nobody know?
You know.
I mean, that's. I'm not quite sure I do.
No.
But that's part of it.
It really
what
is.
does nobody
What does
know?
Calista?
What does nobody know? Because every character has a little bit of that.
What does Calista do? If she were this character, how would you do it? You know, I learned Salome Jens, who was my idol, and she gave me the point of, you know, when you're sitting at an audition and you're waiting for people to go and you play anger and you hear everybody screaming at the top of their lungs and this and that. And I remember Salome one day saying, "Why do you have to scream?" And I think back, you know, the Pawnbroker. I don't know if you ever saw the movie with Rod Steiger.
I don't
It's
think
one of the, he does it. There's a scene in there where he screams, but no sound comes out. And it's the most powerful
yeah.
scream I've ever heard in my life.
Wow, yeah.
There's no sound. And
Pretty good.
Charlie
You know,
Daycock.
I haven't liked watching movies where there's a lot of screaming, or plays where there's a lot of screaming. I mean, how much of that does the audience?
Yeah.
Certainly, we scream in life as human
Oh
beings.
yeah, right. It's like crying too. Shelley Winters always talked about when she was doing A Place in the Sun, and she was in the rowboat and she was crying, and the director told her, "Don't cry and you'll win an Oscar." And she didn't cry, and she did. She won an Oscar. So I always think of that. Why do you have to cry all the time? I mean, it's mean.
Well, I didn't like.
Or scream.
I remember when I was working on Kung Fu: The Legend Continues. They're always having me say, "Help me, help me, help me." You know, I didn't want to be
Right.
vulnerable. I wanted to be tough,
Yeah,
and you know, because I was doing a lot of the martial arts, and you know, so I have to say, "Help me, Kane, help me." You know, look at the script, and
Yeah.
you know,
It's so stereotyped.
I've
you
been
know.
trained in this
Yeah.
on screen,
I
and you're
give-
still gonna have me doing this.
Yeah, I give the Chinese a great because they brought women out as very strong in their kung fu movies.
Mm.
You know, today and all that. I give them big credit. Well, I'm a big fan of
Oh,
Chinese.
it's so fun to play the tough guy when you're a woman, you know.
Bad guy. You always remember the lead and the bad guy. You know, I love playing the bad guy. It's so easy. I mean,
Yeah.
it was-
It's an Italian thing.
It's an Italian thing, yeah. when I worked with Bronson, I really enjoyed that. I mean, he helped me a lot on that, in The Messenger of Death. Actually, I was the only bad guy to live in that Bronson movie. And because we were going to do a sequel with it, his wife got sick and died. God, he really loved that woman, I used to see women try to get close to him on the tree, to his trailer. And he would never, he had no problem. He loved his wife, faithful.
Very nice.
What a nice guy too, yeah, that was a lot of fun. So the name of the movie is?
Which one?
The one you're doing
because,
now.
we have the first movie I did with Johnny Barrymore was Mata Hari.
Mata Hari, yeah, we got to get a clip of that.
Which is still in post-production, and I might be able to arrange a little snippet with John and I because...
Do you hear that, John? We need you to come on and talk about Mata Hari.
And the next one I did with him, I think, was Mansion of Blood. When I sing on camera in that, and I play one of the many characters in that film. Gary Busey's in that one. He's an interesting character.
Yes, I worked with him on Lost Highway.
He has a presence about him.
Well, yeah.
He really does have a presence on camera. And then after we did that, and Johnny and I aren't on camera at the same time on that film, unfortunately.
Oh.
Right? And then we did another movie about human trafficking. I think they're changing the title to that one.
So you guys have really been working a lot lately.
Yeah, and then we did this one. Yeah, we played a married couple in the last one. We played a married couple in this one. When I was a little girl, I wanted to marry him.
Really?
And my dad wanted me to, too.
So you did twice.
Smash it, yeah. Yeah, they gave me a little wedding ring on set, know.
So your dreams came true twice?
Yeah.
Who says dreams don't come true?
We missed the ceremony, though. That never happened.
Yeah, well, straight to the honeymoon.
We'll have to film one of those.
That's true. Good for you.
Actually, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah. I can feel the fondness of you two. So on that note, and hopefully we got enough time so you can get it up, I want to thank you for coming on The Method Actor Speaks and being my friend. You've been a dear friend for quite a while now, you and your family. I really care about you. You know that, as a friend. And I would love to work with you. Oh, that would be
we should line that up.
Gift. Yes. So I want to tell you, if you want to come on The Method Actor Speaks, just get in touch with me, John Solari. I'm on Facebook, YouTube, and at the end there's a phone number that will be listed up here at 818-773-0991. So if you want to come on, please, let us know. We'd love to have you. All right? And thank you, Calista Carradine.